All right, shalom. All praises to the Most High, the King of Kings, the God of all gods. Hope you have a blessed Shabbat. We'll get into the third woe. All right. So the First World War was over Ferdinand assassination, and thought that was interesting. Some more that I gotta look into in that, but um, then you had this war here in 1941 and 1944 um, over Pearl Harbor, right, with the Japanese and all that good old stuff. We're going to get into that information. All right, I'm just showing you some pictures real quick. I got some pictures here. Maybe you can see. I don't know if you can see. I don't know. Let's see. Some pictures there. Different pictures here. Yeah. War isn't good. War, what is it good for? Absolutely not. All right. So, this book says here second thoughts about the atomic power. All right. So, it says here even before the United States entered World War II, a number of physicists aware of German advances in nuclear research had taken an active role in persuading the American government to develop an atomic bomb. In June of 1945, the climate had changed. Germany was defeated, and much more was known about the destructive power of atomic energy. As a result, many of the same physicists who had earlier urged government research in the nuclear field began to reconsider their views. A bomb had been assembled at Los Alamos in New Mexico, and the government was preparing for its first test of the weapon, which took place on July 16. Secretary of War Stinson had appointed a group of physicists, including Glenn Seaborg and Leo Salazar, to explore the uses of the new source of power. And in June, the group issued the following report. All right, we're gonna read all the report, but we'll read some things here, right? It says it could be suggested that the danger of destruction by nuclear weapons can be avoided, at least as far as this country is concerned, either by keeping our discovery secret for an indefinite time, or else by developing our nuclear armaments weapons at such a pace that no other nation would think of attacking us from fear of overwhelming retaliation. Huh. Um, it says, so we cannot hope to avoid a nuclear armament race. They cannot avoid a nuclear weapons race. Why? Either by keeping secret, they can't do it by keeping things secret from competing nations, the basic scientific facts of nuclear power, or by concerning the raw materials required for such a race. All right. So let me go over here. It says, in fact, if the race for nuclear armaments weapons is allowed to develop, The only apparent way in which our country can be protected from the paralyzing effects of a sudden attack is by dispersal of those industries which are essential for our war efforts and dispersal of the populations of our major metropolitan cities. As long as nuclear bombs remain scarce, few, as long as uranium remains the only basic material for their fabrication. Efficient dispersal of our industry businesses and the scattering of our metropolitan population will considerably decrease the temptation to attack us by nuclear weapons. At present, it may be that atomic bombs can be detonated with an effect equal to that of 20,000 tons of TNT. One of these bombs could then destroy something like 3 square miles of an urban area. Atomic bombs containing a larger quantity of active material but still weighing less than 1 ton may be expected to be available within 10 years, which could destroy over 10 square miles of a city. A nation able to assign 10 tons of automatic explosives for a sneak attack on this country can then hope to achieve the destruction of all industry and most of the population. In an area from 500 square miles upwards, if no choice of targets with a total area of 500 square miles of American territory contains a large enough fraction of the nation's industry and population to make their destruction a crippling blow to the nation's war potential and its ability to defend itself, then the attack will not pay and may not be undertaken. At present, one can easily select in this country 100 areas of 5 square miles each, whose simultaneous destruction would be a staggering blow to the nation. Since the area of the United States is about 3 million square miles, it should be possible to scatter its industrial and human resources in such a way as to leave no 500 square mile important enough to serve as a target for nuclear attack. um, we are fully aware of the staggering difficulties involved in such a radical change in the social and economic structure of our nation. We felt, however, that the dilemma had to be stated to show what kind of alternative methods of protection will have to be considered if no successful international agreement is reached. It must be pointed out that in this field we are in a less favorable position than nations which either now more diffusely populated and whose industries are more scattered, or whose governments have unlimited power over the movement of population and the location of industrial plants. All right. So that's just some information. All right. Now let's see what else we got here. It says, from this point of view, a demonstration of the new weapon might best be made before the eyes of representatives of all the United Nations on the desert or a barren island. All right. The best possible atmosphere for the achievement of an international agreement could be achieved if America could say to the world, see what sort of weapon we have, but did not use. We are ready to renounce its use, the atomic bomb, in the future if other nations join us in this renunciation of using atomic bombs and agree to the establishment of an efficient international control, right? The United Nations, the UN. They thought that they could regulate these weapons, powerful weapons. All right. So this is Harry S. Truman, the announcement of dropping of an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. All right. The announcement. All right. So I'm in the Annals of America. All right. From 1940, 1949, the Second World War, and after. There's some specific things that I want to get here. But let me read a scripture real quick. And that scripture is going to be in Jeremiah. All right. So, Jeremiah 50 and 8. Remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans and be as the he goats before the flocks. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves battle ready around about Babylon. From there she will be taken. Their arrows, missiles, shall be as of a mighty expert man, a destroyer. None shall return in vain when the arrows are released. All right. So we're going to read this. It says the leaders of the Allied powers met at Potsdam, Germany from July 17th to August 2nd, 1945 to consider the fate of defeated Germany and to plan a final campaign against Japan. The U.S. representative was President Truman, who had succeeded to presidency on Roosevelt's death 3 months before, and Clement Attlee replaced Winston Churchill, a British Prime Minister, during the course of the conference. The first declaration is issued by the conferencees was the unconditional surrender, an ultimatum presented to Japan on July 26. Earlier in the conference, Truman had, where am I at? To which, I missed my spot. Truman had informed Churchill that the United States had successfully tested an atomic device on July 16, to which Churchill is supposed to have responded. This is the second coming in wrath. On July 25th, a day before the ultimatum, Truman ordered the 20th Air Force at Sapien to use one of the two atomic bombs in their possession at the first opportunity after August 3rd if Japan had not yet surrendered. On July 29th, the Japanese cabinet decided to make no immediate comment on the ultimatum, but press reports of their decision indicated to Truman and the Joint Chiefs of Staff that they had ignored the ultimatum. This note of defiance, which may actually have been unintended, led to the decision in Washington to use the bombs. The first was dropped on Hiroshima on the morning of August 6, destroying over 4 square miles of the city and killing or injuring more than 135,000 people. The president addresses to the nation on August 6 is reprinted here. This is what he said. I'm going to read it. It says here, 16 hours ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima, an important Japanese army base. That bomb had more power than 20,000 tons of TNT. It had more than 2,000 times the blast power of the British Grand Slam, which is the largest bomb ever yet used in the history of warfare. All right. The Japanese began the war from the air at Pearl Harbor. They have been repaid manifold, and the end is not yet. With this bomb, we have now added a new revolutionary increase in destruction to supplement the growing power of our armed forces. In the present form, these bombs are now in production, and even more powerful forms are in development, are being created. It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. The force from which the sun draws its power has been loosed against those who brought war to the Far East. All right. And before 1939, it was the accepted belief of the scientists that it was theoretically possible to release atomic energy, but no one knew any practical way of doing it. By 1942, however, we knew that the Germans were working feverishly to find a way to add atomic energy to the other engines of war, all right, the other weapons of war, with which they hoped to enslave the world. But they failed, and we may be grateful to the providence that the Germans got the V1s and the V2s late and in the limited quantities, and even more grateful that they did not get the atomic bomb at all. The Battle of the Laboratories, all right, had fateful risks for us as well as the battles of the air, all right, land and sea, the ground and the sea, the water. And we have now won the Battle of the Laboratories as we have won the other battles. All right. So in this picture, it shows smoke rising from the explosion of the atomic bomb at Hiroshima. Photo taken from Yoshiro on other side of the mountain to the north. Spots on film were caused by radiation from the explosion. All right. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. Few know what they have been producing. They see great quantities of material going in, and they see nothing coming out of these plants, for the physical size of the explosion charge is exceedingly small. We have spent $2 billion on the greatest scientific gamble in history and won. But the greatest marvel is not the size of the enterprise, its secrecy, nor its cost, but the achievement of scientific brains in putting together infinitely complex pieces of knowledge held by many men in different fields of science into a workable plan. And hardly less marvelous has been the capacity of industry to design and of labor to operate the machines and methods to do things never done before, so that the brainchild of many minds came forth in physical shape and performed as it was supposed to do. Both scientists and industry worked under the direction of the United States Army, which achieved unique success in managing so diverse a problem in the advancement of knowledge in an amazing short time. It is doubtful if such another combination could be got together in the world. What has been done is the greatest achievement organized science in history. It was done under high pressure and without failure. Hmm. Mm, mm, mm. We are now prepared to obliterate more rapidly and completely every production enterprise the Japanese have above ground in any city. We shall destroy their docks, their factories, and their communication. Let there be no mistake, we shall completely destroy Japan's power to make war. It was to spare the Japanese people from utter destruction that the ultimatum of July 26 was issued at Potsdam. Their leaders promptly rejected the ultimatum. If they do not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. Behind this air attack will follow sea and land forces in such numbers, the power as they have not yet seen, and with the fighting skill of which they are already well aware. Hmm. All right. So that's one part. That was Hiroshima. All right. Then I want to read Nagasaki. All right. And yeah, we can read Nagasaki. All right. William L. Lawrence, atomic bomb on Nagasaki. On August 9th, 1945, the United States dropped a second atomic bomb, this time on Nagasaki, a highly populous city or capital and naval base near the southern tip of Japan. The bomb destroyed 40% of the buildings, completely razing the center of the city, and killing 39,000 persons and injured an additional 25,000. All right. So the first sign of dawn came shortly after 5 o'clock. Sergeant Curry, who had been listening steadily on his earphones for radio reports while maintaining a strict radio silence himself, greeted it by rising to his feet and gazing out the window. "It is good to see the day," he told me. "Get a feeling of claustrophobia hemmed in this cabin at night." He is a typical American youth, looking even younger than his 20 years. It takes no mind reader to read his thoughts. "It's a long way from Houston, Illinois," I find myself remarking. "Yep," he replies as he busies himself decoding a message from outer space. "Think this atomic bomb will end the war?" he asks hopefully. "There's a very good chance that this one may do the trick," I assure him, "but if not, then the next one or two surely will. Its power is such that no nation can stand up against it very long." Mm. This was not my own view. I had heard it expressed all around a few hours earlier, before we took off. To anyone who had seen this man-made fireball in action, as I had less than a month ago in the desert of New Mexico, this view did not sound over-optimistic. By 5:50, it was real light outside. We had lost our lead ship, but Lieutenant Godfrey, our navigator, informs me that we arranged for that contingency. We have an assembly point in the sky above the little island of Yokoshima, southeast of Kyushu. At 9:10, we are to circle there and wait for the rest of the formation. Our genial bombardier, Lieutenant Levy, comes over to invite me to take the front row seat in the transparent nose of the ship, and I accept eagerly. Somewhere beyond the vast mountains of white clouds ahead of me, there lies Japan, the land of our enemy. And about 4 hours from now, one of its cities making weapons of war for use against us will be wiped off the map by the greatest weapon ever made by man. And 1/10 of a million, a fraction of time immeasurable by any clock, a whirlwind from the skies will pulverize thousands of its buildings and tens of thousands of its population. Our weather planes ahead of us are on their way to find out where the wind blows. Half an hour before target time, we will know what the wind have decided. Not the Most High, but what the wind have decided. Does one feel any pity or compassion for the poor devils about to die? Not one, no one thinks of Pearl Harbor and of the death of March of Baton. Captain Brock informs me that we are about to start our climb to bombing altitude. It was 9:56 when we began heading the coastline. Our weather scouts had sent us code messages deciphered by Sergeant Curry, informing us that both the primary target as well as the second were clearly visible. The winds of destiny seemed to favor certain Japanese. All right. So ain't no winds of destiny. The Most High seemed to favor the certain Japanese cities that must remain nameless. All right. It says we circled about them again and again and found no opening in the thick umbrellas of clouds that covered them. Destiny chose Nagasaki as the ultimate target. All right. It says we had been circling for some time when we noticed black puffs of smoke coming through the white clouds directly at us. There were 15 bursts of flak in rapid succession, all too low. Captain Brock changed his course. There soon followed more bursts of flak right up to our altitude, but by this time we were too far to the left. We flew southward down the channel at 11:33, crossed the coastline, and headed straight for Nagasaki. But 100 miles to the west, here again we circled until we found an opening in the clouds. It was 12:01, and the goal of our mission had arrived. We heard the prearranged signal on our radio, but on our arc welders glasses, we put on our arc welder glasses and watched tensely the maneuverings of the strike ship about half a mile in front of us. There she goes, someone said, out of the belly of the great Artis. What looked like a black object went downward. The captain box swung around to get out of the range, but even though we were turning away the opposite direction, despite the fact that it was broad daylight in our cabin, all of us became aware of a giant flash that broke through the dark barrier of the arc welder's lenses and flooded our cabin with intense light. We removed our glasses after the first flash, but the light still lingered on, a bluish green that illuminated the entire sky all around. A tremendous blast wave struck our ship and made it tremble from nose to tail. This was followed by more blasts in rapid succession, each resounding like the boom of a cannon fire hitting our plane from all directions. Observers in the tail of the ship saw a giant ball of fire rise as though from the bowels of the earth, belching from enormous white smoke rings. Next, they saw a gigantic pillar of purple fire, 1,000 feet high, shooting skyward with enormous speed. By the time our ship had made another turn in the direction of atomic explosion, the pillar of purple fire reached the level of our altitude. Only about 45 seconds have passed. Awestruck, we watched it shoot upward like a meteor coming from the earth, instead of from outer space, becoming ever more alive as it climbed skyward through the white clouds. It was no longer smoke or dust or even a cloud of fire. It was a living thing, a new species of being born before our incredulous eyes. At one stage of its evolution, covering millions of years of terms of seconds, the entity, right? The entity assumed the form of a giant square totem pole, with its base about 3 miles long, tapering off to about a mile at the top. Its bottom was brown, its center was amber, its top white, but it was a living totem pole, carved with many grotesque masks grimacing at the earth. So listen how they detailed it. They said it was an entity when they blew it up, but we're gonna see what Ezra's scene. Then, just when it appeared as though the thing had settled down into a state of preeminence, there came shooting out of the top a giant mushroom that increased the height of the pillar a total of 45,000 feet. The mushroom top was even more alive than the pillar, seeing and boiling in a white fury of creamy foam, sizzling upward and descending earthward. 1,000 old faithful geysers rolled into one. It kept struggling in a elemental fury like a creature in an act of breaking the bonds that held it down. It was being released. In a few seconds, it had freed itself from its gigantic stem and floated upward in tremendous speed, its momentum carrying into the stratosphere to the height of about 60,000 feet. But not sooner did this happen when another mushroom, smaller in size than the first, began emerging out of the pillar. It was as though the decapitated monster or entity was growing a new head. As the first mushroom floated off into the blue, it changed its shape into a flower-like form, its giant petal curving downward, creamy white outside, rose-colored inside. It still retained that shape when we last gazed at it from a distance of about 200 miles. And this is what they saw. All right. That's what they saw. All right. And so I'm gonna go to Second Ezra, and I'm gonna try to see if I can find it real quick. In Second Ezra 16, all right, it says, "Behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm." Right? They shall hit upon another. These are missiles. These are bombs hitting upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, and blood shall be from the sword unto the belly, and dung of men unto the camel's hoof. And there shall be great fearfulness and trembling upon earth, and they that see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them. And then shall there come storms from the south and from the north, and another part from the west, and strong winds arise from the east, and shall open it in the cloud which he raised up in anger, and the star stirred to cause fear toward the east and west wind shall be destroyed. The great and mighty cloud shall be lifted up full of anger, and the star, and they that make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein, and they shall pour out over every high eminent place, cities, metropolitans, a horrible star. All right. Fire and hell and fleeing swords and many waters, that all fields may be full, and all rivers with the abundance of great waters. When a nuclear explosion happens, when these stars hit, all right? And it says, and they shall break down the cities and walls, mountains and hills, tree of the wood and grass of the meadows, and their corn. And they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon, America, and make her afraid. And they shall come to her and attack her, the star, and all wrath shall they pour out upon her. And then shall the dust of the smoke go up into the heaven, the sky, and all that be about her shall cry for her. All right. All right. So woe unto America, right? Well, let's get these other precepts real quick. See if I can get them fast. All right. So I got 2 Peter 3:10. 2 Peter 3:10, it says, the scriptures reads, "But that day of the Most High will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up." All right, shall be burnt up. Let's get Isaiah 9. I want Isaiah. Isaiah 9, verse 5. "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." The third woe is going to be with burning and fuel of fire. So in the times past, every battle of the warriors with confused noise, yelling and screaming, shooting and cutting, and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning, fuel of fire. Okay, fuel of fire. Let's see if I can get this in. I don't think I can get it in. It's all right. I can't get it in, but I'm gonna get Isaiah 30. Let's see, 34. And 8 says, "For it is the day of the Most High vengeance, and the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion. And the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. And it shall not be quenched night or day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever from the generation to generation."